Samurai Nippon. Miyamoto Musashi vs. Sasaki Kojiro, the truth behind the Ganryu Island duel.
Splash, splash. What is that faint sound mingling with the waves? The clash of sword against sword? Or perhaps the final breaths of dying men? The morning of April 13th, Keicho 17th, 1612 AD. On a small island floating in the Kanmon Straits, a moment that would change Japanese history was about to unfold. The story of two souls colliding in what would later be called the Duel at Ganryu Island. But was that story, from movies and novels, really the truth? Hidden behind the beautifully crafted heroic tales lies a reality, stained with blood, sweat, and tears.
Today, let us open that door. Before that, please subscribe to the channel and hit the like button. This will help the right videos appear for you. Chapter 1, Background and Historical Setting.
A spring breeze scattered cherry blossoms through the castle town of Kokura. This was the Keicho era. Over 10 years had passed since the Battle of Sekigahara, and though Tokugawa's world was finally beginning to stabilize, the air in Kyushu still hung heavy with tension. This was Japan's frontier, the front line facing the Korean peninsula. A premonition lingered that the flames of war might ignite again at any moment. Hosokawa Tadaoki, lord of Buzen Kokura domain, gazed out at the Kanmon Straits from his castle's keep that day. At 48, this man, who had raced through the Warring States period, carried in his eyes a complex mixture of relief at peace and the stirring blood of a warrior.
A world without war is like lukewarm tea to a samurai.
Despite such murmurings, he was also a cultured man who loved the tea ceremony, composed waka poetry, and was captivated by no theater. As a disciple of Sen no Rikyu, he sought to master the spirit of wabi-cha, while simultaneously charging through blood-soaked battlefields during the Korean invasions. This contradiction was the very essence of Hosokawa Tadaoki, and this contradiction would set the stage for the story we're about to tell. In Kokura's castle town, martial artists from across the nation competed to test their skills. The beginning of a peaceful era ironically shook the very foundation of the samurai's reason for existence. Young warriors whose hands had never felt the sticky sensation of blood sought to confirm their worth through dojo training and inter-school matches. Amidst this atmosphere, two names began to be whispered among the warriors. Miyamoto Musashi, a mysterious swordsman wandering the provinces, 28 years old. Just hearing his name was enough to electrify the atmosphere in any dojo. Sasaki Kojiro, the Hosokawa family's sword instructor, probably in his mid-30s, a man who had silenced many swordsmen with his massive blade. Called the laundry pole and his swallow reversal technique, fate sometimes prepares cruelly vivid scenarios. In the autumn of Keicho 16, these two men met at a martial arts demonstration hosted by Hosokawa Tadaoki. Musashi demonstrated his unprecedented two-sword style, a large sword in his right hand, a small sword in his left. Like two serpents intertwining, it was a beautiful yet terrifying dance. The watching warriors held their breath. Meanwhile, Kojiro's blade, 3 shaku, and 3 sun long, cut through the air like a living creature. His sword strokes flowed like water, captivating all who watched.
Interesting.
It was just one short word, but those words would determine the fate of both men. Among the watching warriors, debate began.
Musashi's two-sword style, isn't that heretical? No, victory makes it orthodox. But Kojiro's swallow reversal, there's something divine in that beauty. Beauty cannot kill a man.
The debate continued until deep into the night, and finally someone spoke the fateful words. I'd like to see which one is truly stronger. In that moment, the wheels of fate began to turn.
Chapter 2, The Protagonist. Miyamoto Musashi, the solitary seeker.
Why did the man born in Harima province abandon his homeland? No one alive remembers Musashi's boyhood, but one thing is certain: he killed a man for the first time at age 13. His opponent was a warrior named Arima Kihei, a single blow with a wooden sword. Who could imagine Musashi's state of mind at that moment?
To win means to live, to lose means to die. What else is there?
For 28 years, Musashi continued fighting. In the streets of Kyoto, in ancient temples of Nara, in the sacred precincts of Ise, whether his opponents were famous swordsmen or nameless, Ronin made no difference. He sought only strength relentlessly. Why did he develop the two-sword style? The answer was simple: to win.
Attack with the right hand, defend with the left. Fight with the right, kill with the left. Heaven gave humans 2 hands for a reason.
but the price of that strength was steep. Musashi had no friends, no woman to love, only cold steel and an endless journey. Night after night, Musashi gazed up at the sky, searching for his place among the glittering stars. But he never found it. Only wind blew, clouds drifted, and time passed.
Sasaki Kojiro, the aesthete of solitude.
Kojiro's sword had a name, Bizen Osafuna Nagamitsu, 3 shaku and 3 son of beautiful steel. Though sometimes mocked as a laundry pole, to Kojiro it was his very soul.
The sword is the samurai's soul. Therefore, my soul too must be beautiful.
Born and raised in Echizen, Kojiro had walked a path opposite to Musashi's. He knocked on Todasigan's door at 15. There he learned not just technique, but the etiquette of a warrior, graceful bearing, and above all, the aesthetics of swordsmanship. The swallow reversal. This technique was born from observing countless swallows in Echizen's mountains. It was as if he had captured the very trajectory of a swallow's flight in his blade.
Swallows never fly in straight lines. They read the wind, slice through air, and change direction in an instant. That is true speed.
Since entering the Hosokawa family's service, Kojiro's days had been fulfilling. His students respected him as their master, and fellow warriors cherished him. Like an elder brother, at tea gatherings he composed waka, poetry, and on moonlit nights he played the flute. These were the warm, human relationships that Musashi could never obtain. Yet deep in Kojiro's heart lurked a constant anxiety.
Is my sword merely beautiful? In this peaceful world that sees no blood, are my techniques truly useful?
This anxiety would drive him toward the fateful duel.
The chasm between them.
Between Musashi and Kojiro lay a deep chasm. A fundamental difference in their view of swordsmanship. To Musashi, swordsmanship was a means of survival. Beauty and style meant nothing. Simply win. Simply defeat the opponent. That was all. To Kojiro, swordsmanship was art. Without beauty, it was meaningless. It had value only if it captivated people. Even in victory, an ugly win held no meaning. This fundamental difference in values would set them on a collision course, and that collision would become more than a mere contest of skill. A clash of philosophy against philosophy.
Chapter 3, The Path to Duel.
Spring of Keicho, 17. As the cherry blossoms began to scatter, the wheels of fate accelerated. The trigger was an offhand remark by Hosokawa retainer Murata Katsunojo.
Musashi and Kojiro. Might we arrange a bout between them? For us warriors, there could be no more fascinating spectacle.
The eyes of all the warriors present lit up simultaneously, but Kojiro shook his head.
Murata, that is not a light matter. A bout means staking one's life. It is not entertainment.
However, Musashi's answer was different.
Interesting, I accept.
His reply was so casual that the atmosphere froze. Kojiro's expression changed.
Miyamoto, do you desire a serious duel?
Real sword or wooden sword? When you die, you die. When you live, that's all there is.
I understand.
That night, Kojiro went alone into the garden and gazed up at the moon. Wind scattered cherry petals and the night air stung his cheeks coldly. From the next room came his wife's sleeping breath, the sound of peaceful daily life.
This may be the last time.
Meanwhile, Musashi was drinking sake at his inn, but his expression showed no signs of intoxication. He calculated coldly Kojiro's sword strokes, the length of his blade, his habitual movements. He recreated everything in his memory and devised countermeasures.
Kojiro, I'll shatter that aesthetics of yours.
Choosing the battleground.
The location was a problem. Fighting in the castle town might bring trouble to the Hosokawa family if something went wrong. So they proposed the uninhabited island of Funajima in the Kanmon Straits.
On that island, no one will be inconvenienced.
Funajima, a small island that mostly submerged at high tide. Usually it was only used by fishermen to dry their nets, a forgotten place. But this choice would give the duel special meaning, because this island changed size with the tides. Depending on when they fought, the battlefield conditions would change. This would be not just a contest of skill, but also a battle of strategy and timing.
Musashi's stratagem.
The duel was set for April 13th at the hour of the rabbit 6 a.m. But Musashi already had a plan. He would be late. Why be late? There were 3 reasons. First, to disturb his opponent's mental state. Waiting gnaws at the human heart. It would be especially effective against a perfectionist like Kojiro. Second, to use the sun's position. By shifting the time, he could make the sunlight angle favorable to himself. Third, to read the tidal flow. Musashi had been observing the sea's condition since the previous day. He knew the tide would change at a certain time. The night before, Musashi walked the shores of Moji. Moonlight illuminated the sea surface, and the sound of waves broke the night's silence. Eventually, Musashi found a piece of driftwood, a broken oar about 4 shaku long.
This is it.
Returning to his inn, Musashi spent the night carving that driftwood. He carefully shaved the surface with his blade, shaped the grip, and sharpened the tip. By dawn, a wooden sword 4 shaku and 2 sun long was complete. Why a wooden sword instead of steel? Wooden swords are lighter. They cause less fatigue in prolonged combat. They're also less likely to break and won't chip like metal blades. And most importantly, he could make it longer than Kojiro's sword.
Kojiro, your advantage in reach means nothing.
Kojiro's vigil.
Meanwhile, Kojiro arrived at the island at the appointed time. He crossed to the island on a Hosokawa family boat and sat in meditation with his beloved sword, Bizen Osafune Nagamitsu, across his knees, calming his mind. But as time passed without Musashi's appearance, the sun rose, the sea's color changed, and the island's shape began to shift.
Could he have fled?
No, that was impossible. Considering Musashi's character, he would definitely appear. Then this too must be some stratagem. A thin sheen of sweat appeared on Kojiro's brow. It wasn't from the temperature. The pressure of waiting was gradually compressing his heart.
Kojiro-sama, over an hour has passed.
It doesn't matter, he will come.
Even as he said this, Kojiro's heart wavered. If Musashi didn't appear, it would be a victory by default. But could he be satisfied with that? The Hosokawa family's honor might be preserved, but questions would remain in his heart forever.
Musashi, come quickly, let us settle this.
Chapter 4, Climax. The day of the Ganryu Island duel.
The hour of the dragon. As the sun began to climb high, a small boat's silhouette appeared on the distant sea.
He's coming!
Kojiro stood up. In that instant, he felt all the blood in his body rush at once. Muscles stiff from over an hour of waiting instantly shifted to combat readiness. But Musashi's actions were unexpected. Just before reaching the island, Musashi leaped from the boat into the sea. Splash! Water sprayed up and Musashi's figure disappeared beneath the surface. The next moment, Musashi emerged, walking toward the island with water up to his waist.
What is he doing?
What was Musashi's intent? Actually, the Kanmon Straits were unusually calm that day. This water body, normally known for violent currents, was as still as a mirror. Musashi had been reading these weather conditions since the previous night. Emerging from the sea, Musashi's appearance was eerie. His wet kimono clung to his body, water droplets falling from his hair. He had the overwhelming presence of a vengeful spirit risen from the ocean. And what Musashi held was an unfamiliar long wooden sword.
A wooden sword? Are you mocking me?
Sword or wooden sword, their ability to kill remains the same.
After brief greetings, the two faced each other. The island was about 40 ken square, roughly the size of a tennis court. It was a true one-on-one stage with no escape. The ground was sand and pebbles. With the tide having receded, seaweed clung here and there. The footing was slippery and far from ideal. Sea wind tossed their hair, and seabirds' cries echoed. The sun hung high in the eastern sky, casting their shadows long toward the west.
Kojiro discards his scabbard.
Kojiro moved first. Drawing his beloved Bizen Osafune Nagamitsu from its scabbard, he threw the scabbard toward the sea. Plop! The scabbard floated on the sea surface, rocking with the waves as it drifted away.
I will never sheath this blade again.
With this sword, let us settle matters. This was an act showing a warrior's resolve. There was no turning back now. Win or die, nothing else existed. But seeing this act, Musashi inwardly confirmed his victory.
Foolish. One who truly intends to win also considers what comes after victory. Discarding the scabbard is what one does when accepting death.
Confrontation.
The distance between them was about 3 ken, just under 5 meters. Kojiro's long sword could reach in 2 steps. Even Musashi's wooden sword could reach with a large advance. Yet neither moved immediately. They probed each other's intentions, seeking openings. This moment of tension was the essence of swordsmanship. Before technique came the battle of wills. The wind strengthened. White caps appeared on the sea surface and their garments fluttered. Kojiro's long hair streamed in the wind while Musashi's wet kimono began to dry. Time seemed frozen in silence. Only the sound of waves, wind, and their breathing could be heard. Sweat beaded on Kojiro's forehead, sweat from tension. After waiting over an hour and Musashi's bizarre arrival, everything was beyond expectation, and his mental preparation couldn't keep up. Musashi, meanwhile, was completely calm. He observed his opponent's movements, calculating the timing of attack. Kojiro's breathing, the frequency of his blinking, subtle shifts in weight, everything was part of Musashi's tactics.
Swallow reversal versus wooden sword.
Kojiro moved his right foot half a step forward. In that instant, Musashi also moved. But Musashi's movement was completely different from Kojiro's expectations. Rather than charging straight forward, he closed distance while moving slightly to the right.
Here you come.
Kojiro unleashed his signature swallow reversal. He raised his long sword high, then instantly changed trajectory to slash diagonally downward. The blade described an arc, reflecting sunlight with a brilliant flash. The essence of the swallow reversal was predicting the opponent's evasive movement and placing the sword where they would be. Exactly like a cat catching a swallow. But Musashi had studied this technique. He had calculated the trajectory of Kojiro's swallow reversal and found its blind spot. Musashi leaned his body greatly to the right. Kojiro's blade grazed Musashi's left shoulder, but didn't deliver a fatal wound. And Musashi used that momentum to raise his wooden sword.
The decisive instant.
The moment sword and wooden sword crossed, Kojiro's blade cut Musashi's headband and shaved part of his top knot. A few centimeters closer, and it would have severed Musashi's neck. But Musashi's wooden sword struck Kojiro's head. Thud. A dull sound echoed. Kojiro's body staggered, then he fell to his knees. His beloved sword slipped from his hand and fell to the sand.
Magnificent.
Those were Kojiro's final words. He pitched forward and moved no more. Musashi held his wooden sword ready, watching Kojiro's condition for some time. Was he truly dead or merely unconscious? Verification was necessary. When he confirmed that Kojiro's chest had stopped moving, Musashi quietly lowered his wooden sword.
The victor's solitude.
The moment of victory. Yet Musashi's heart held no joy, only a deep sense of emptiness.
Is this the end?
Musashi picked up Kojiro's sword. Bizeno Sofune Nagamitsu. It was a beautiful blade. His own face reflected in the steel, and Musashi was surprised by his expression. He looked like a dead man. Musashi threw the sword into the sea. He sent it to the ocean floor along with Kojiro's soul. Then he placed his hand on Kojiro's forehead and offered a silent prayer. Though an enemy, he had been a magnificent swordsman. His sword truly possessed beauty, but beauty alone could not ensure survival. That was reality. The Hosokawa family boat approached the island. The boatmen were aghast seeing fallen Kojiro.
Kojiro-sama.
Musashi bowed deeply to the boatmen.
Sasaki was a magnificent swordsman. My victory was mere luck.
But there was no lie in those words. If Kojiro had delivered that strike just a little more accurately, it might have been Musashi lying there. Swordsmanship was like that, a world of paper-thin margins.
The mystery that remains on the island.
What happened to Kojiro's body afterward? According to Hosokawa family records, Kojiro was buried on the island. But other records state he was interred at the Hosokawa family temple. The truth remains shrouded in darkness. Only one thing is certain: this island came to be called Ganryu Island. Named after Kojiro's school, Ganryu, the island was etched into history. Ironically, the loser's name would remain for eternity.
Chapter 5, Aftermath and Influence. Musashi's later years.
Musashi's actions after the duel puzzled many people. Rather than returning in triumph as the victor, rather than reveling in fame, Musashi quietly left the island and set out again on his wandering journey. Why? For Musashi, this duel was merely part of his training, not a destination but a waypoint. By defeating Kojiro, Musashi had discovered new challenges.
What is strength? What is victory? I still don't understand.
Musashi then traveled throughout Kyushu, Bungo, Higo, Satsuma. In each place he dueled with swordsmen and continued his training. Eventually, he would serve the Hosokawa family in Kumamoto, but that was over 10 years later. During that time, Musashi demonstrated talent not only in swordsmanship, but also in painting, sculpture, and architecture. In ink painting especially, he left masterpieces like Koboku Meikakuzu Shrike on Withered Branch, which is still preserved as a national treasure today. In his final years, Musashi wrote The Book of Five Rings. This was not merely a sword manual, but a book of life philosophy. From The Book of Five Rings, in strategy, victory is paramount. But victory alone is meaningless. Why do we win? What do we fight for? Those who forget this can never obtain true strength.
Hosokawa Tadaoki's complex feelings.
Meanwhile, Hosokawa Tadaoki harbored complex emotions: grief at losing a capable retainer, awe at Musashi's ability, and regret that he had permitted the duel. Various feelings raced through Tadaoki's heart.
Musashi is a true warrior, but Kojiro was also a true warrior. Without either, this story could not have existed.
Tadaoki considered taking Musashi as his own retainer but ultimately decided against it. He understood Musashi's free spirit. There were also considerations about his retainer's feelings. Instead, Tadaoki gave Musashi parting gifts and courteously saw him off. Later, when Musashi settled in Kumamoto, he continued to support him through his son Hosokawa Mitsunao.
Impact on sword history.
The influence this duel had on Japanese sword history is immeasurable. First, Musashi's Nippon school spread nationwide. The two-sword style, previously considered heretical, came to be recognized as a legitimate sword school. Even today, the Nippon school continues to exist with many dojos across the country. Musashi's swordsmanship has been passed down across 400 years. Additionally, Musashi's tactical philosophy revolutionized the sword world, from beautiful swordsmanship to winning swordsmanship, from form-focused to utility-focused, from fair and square to rational judgment. This philosophical shift greatly influenced subsequent martial artists.
Impact on Bushido.
More importantly, this duel helped shape the ideal image of Bushido. Kojiro's aesthetics and resolve, Musashi's rationality and strength, both became ideals for later generations of samurai to strive toward. Bushido texts from the Edo period almost invariably reference this duel. Works like Hagakure introduce it as a model of the samurai way of life.
Cultural impact.
This duel also greatly influenced literature and performing arts. During the Edo period, it became material for kodan storytelling and jururi puppet theater, and was repeatedly performed in kabuki. From the Meiji period onward, it has continued to be beloved as material for novels and films. From Yoshikawa Eiji's Miyamoto Musashi to Kurosawa Akira's films, and recently Inoue Takehiko's manga, Vagabond, works spanning the ages continue to be created. However, many of these works are fiction and differ greatly from historical fact. That's precisely why knowing the accurate history is important.
Lessons for today.
What does this duel teach us in the modern age? First, what true strength means. Musashi's strength wasn't just technique, situational judgment, mental fortitude, and above all, the determination to win. These combine to create true strength. Second, the balance between aesthetics and practicality. Kojiro's aesthetics were wonderful, but they alone couldn't secure victory. Yet Musashi wasn't merely a victory machine either. His later cultural achievements show he too was someone who loved beauty. Third, the importance of preparation. Musashi's victory largely depended on his preparations the day of the duel, crafting the wooden sword, reading weather conditions, employing psychological warfare. Everything was calculated.
Ganryu Island today.
Present-day Ganryu Island has become a tourist destination in Shimonoseki City, Yamaguchi Prefecture. The island features statues of Musashi and Kojiro, and events recreating the duel are held. Many tourists visit annually to contemplate the duel of 400 years ago. However, the current island differs greatly from that time. Land reclamation has expanded its area, making it difficult to feel the tension of that era. Yet the tidal currents and winds of the Kanmon Straits remain unchanged. The sound of the waves remains the same. Close your eyes and that day's scene seems to revive.
Ending.
Splash, splash. The sound of waves still echoing in the Kanmon Straits remains unchanged from that day. Playing the same music as that morning 400 years ago. Miyamoto Musashi and Sasaki Kojiro. One left his name in history as victor, the other became legend as the defeated. But who was the true victor? Musashi certainly won the duel, but was he able to find true happiness in his subsequent life? He continued living as a solitary seeker, carrying unanswered questions until his final breath. Kojiro certainly lost the duel, but his aesthetics are told eternally. His soul, embedded in the name Ganryu Island, lives on today. Which was the victor, which the defeated? The answer lies within your heart. What Musashi and Kojiro showed us was the challenge of human limits. The limits of technique, of spirit, of aesthetics. It was the trajectory of two souls trying to transcend all of these. Not a beautified heroic tale. A story of flesh and blood humans stained with blood, sweat, and tears. That is the true value of this duel. Splash, splash. The waves call out, "What are you living for? What are you fighting for?" How would you answer that question?